Yeah, I ain't gonna do an intro for this one because I don't know what's about to happen. So let's just see it. Yeah, let's check out this Nancy Grace interview from Hanging Out with Sean Hannity.
I want
I said that's like an old school Fox person.
people to know you the way I do.
They're not gonna strike me, right? All right, maybe I don't make it full screen.
Sean, when my fiance was murdered, I didn't even want to say words. I felt like going out in the dark, in the woods, and just howling like an animal. I didn't have words to say. It was so awful when people have been talking about did Nancy
Nah, what's up with the music, brother?
are caught out of
With the one and the only Nancy Grace, the smartest criminal detective, victims advocate in the entire country. What an honor. Thank you for coming. Thank you for hanging out with us. We appreciate you being here.
I watched some of her coverage, but that was more recent.
I learned a lot about you when we were covering the Nancy Guthrie issue. And one thing that people don't understand is how invested, if you're covering a story, you get so invested in that story. You live, eat, breathe, sleep it. And I know because we'd be texting at 3 a.m. about little details that we are finding about the case with the hopes that we have a great outcome and that there would be a reunion with Savannah and her mother. And I made a mistake one night. One night I came on, there was news. It was disappointing to me. I felt a little deflated and I felt like, it's a dead end. And I asked you, I was stupid enough to ask you if you felt the same thing. And in the nicest way, but tough, you ripped my head off.
I thought it was the other end.
No, you said to me, did you think this was going to be easy? What part of this was not going to be hard, Sean? And I'm like, check. But I thought about it after and I was glad you did it because you're right. But I know a lot of other people watching felt the same way. Tell me where that comes from.
I really don't know exactly where to start because I grew up in such an idyllic world. There's no nice way to put it, poor. I grew up on a red dirt road with a well in the backyard.
Don't you love that song, Red Dirt Road?
Yes.
And done?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
With a well in the backyard that my grandfather dug. And once in a while, the water would be a little red, but we drank it anyway. We didn't know.
Oh, wow.
But it was also a place, Sean, where we could ride our bikes and go play on our own and not come home until we literally heard hymns like God Will Take Care of You, His Eyes on the Sparrow, Rock of Ages, and the church, our Methodist church spire. And we go, 6 o'clock, we got to go home. And my mom would be flying home from work in a car, racing in. My dad, who worked on the railroad, and we would be together. Unless he was working a swing shift, we would be together almost every night. And I didn't know anything about violence at all. And we could see the news at night to be playing, and it seemed so far away, like it had nothing to do with us. So I went away to school and fell in love and got engaged. And I remember the first time I saw Keith. It was across campus.
Keith is who you were engaged to?
I was engaged to.
You were 19.
Mm-hmm. And I saw him and I stopped. I literally stopped and I thought, oh no, he's much too handsome. He'd never date anybody like me. Very quickly, I broke him and his girlfriend up and we got engaged.
Wait a minute. You broke them up?
Yes.
You set out to break them up?
Well, I didn't know she even existed.
Damn, that's intense. that's crazy, but hey, it is what it is.
But, you know.
But of course, you're Nancy Grace. I want to get to this whole story because this really gets to the foundation of where your passion comes from. And it's why I respect you so much, why we become friends, why I know it's real when you're on a show and you're so passionate. You said something that I want to delve into a little more. You said, we grew up, Red Dirt Road, we were poor, but we didn't know we were poor, right?
No, we didn't know.
Okay, we didn't have a lot. My parents worked their ass off, and they didn't have anything. They really did. My mom worked 16-hour shifts in the prison, and valedictorian of her high school class, and didn't have any money for college. She was not happy, but she worked those extra hours.
You remind me of my mom.
Yeah.
When she was in first grade, someone, and we still don't know who, heard her playing piano and paid for her private piano lessons.
Wow.
All the way through school. She studied at Wesleyan University, all-girl college, first in the world in Macon, but she didn't have enough money to go to college. She played cello in the symphony.
Wow.
She worked as a bank teller, and she was our church organist and pianist for, 50 years, never paid. But she didn't have money to go to college. So she, became a bookkeeper.
Who was this angel that did that for your mom?
I don't know, but I have a strong suspicion it was her first grade teacher.
Really?
Miss Willis.
You never found out for sure?
Mother never knew.
But she saw talent in your mom.
Mm-hmm.
That's a beautiful story. But you said something that really struck me. When I was young growing up, even in Long Island, I'd get off the school bus, 3:00, get home, throw my books in the house, boom, gone.
Out.
My parents had no clue where I was, ever.
Mine were both at work. They had no idea where we were.
None. And in my case, I got in a lot more trouble, I guarantee, than you did.
I never got in trouble.
Okay. Now, how did I become a helicopter parent? My daughter is here. She'll never come on camera. How did I become a helicopter parent? They were never out of my sight, ever. I knew where they were at all times.
Constant. I know where mine are right now because I checked Life 360 right before I sat down.
Right here. I got it right on my phone. Yeah.
You got a helicopter, Dad? I call myself a straitjacket mom. Forget the
What do you call
helicopter.
yourself?
Straitjacket.
I'm not sure what that was. What's the name of the thing she said?
My phone. Yeah.
You got now because I checked Life 360 right before I sat down.
Life 360.
Jacket.
So it's like something to keep your kids safe. Family proof your family. Location sharing safety. Wow. Never heard of this. It says like people within your family or anyone who has, I guess, this app that can all have access to where each other's at. That makes sense. I see people putting on their pets, on stuff that's important. I see people putting it on a remote, passports. Make sure I still got my passport locked and loaded.
Mom, forget the
What do you call
helicopter. Straitjacket. Because I try not to let them know. I'll never forget when my daughter said, "Am I ever going to get to go on a walk through the neighborhood?" I said, "Sure, I'll go." She goes, "Alone?" I'm like, "Sure, go." I called David on the phone, my long-suffering husband. I go, code word 911. She's going for a walk. So I go one way surveilling. He goes the other way.
Oh, my God.
I'm not going to let Lucy Lynch get kidnapped. No, that is not happening. And after that, after she realized she could go on a walk, not alone, then she, backed off.
Isn't it sad? If you go to the 40s and 50s, what were the top problems in American schools? Talking in class, chewing gum, running in the halls.
Yes.
What is it now? Drug use, suicide.
Assault in the bathroom.
What happened?
I don't know what happened, but I'm doing everything in my power to keep it away from my twins and any other child that I can affect their life.
Before I get to your story, when you first told it to me, I was tearing up because it was emotional to hear it. And it really goes to the heart. We read these stories, we cover these stories, and you don't sometimes understand the impact. That person that you're reporting on's life has now been turned upside down, inside out. They will never be the same again.
Never.
And you lived it. And that then became your vocation in life, in my view, which we'll get to. But we spent a lot of time talking about Nancy Guthrie. Savannah Guthrie is the co-host of the Today Show. You know her. And I would watch you. You came on every night. You were a real champ. And you'd come on and I would listen to you every night. Every night you gave me hope. You at times would chastise me if I was losing hope, which I appreciated. And you were thinking of things because you've done this your whole life that nobody else thinks of. Okay. Recently, Savannah does the interview with Hoda. Wow. That was brutal. That's not political for me. I don't care if you're a liberal or conservative. I don't want that for anybody in our country. And it happens every day.
Every day. Every day. Something she said, my 94-year-old mother lives with us.
Yeah.
And when people have been talking about, did Nancy Guthrie just go off on her own, and die in a ditch? I mean,
I don't see. I want to sound like super ignorant. Who's Savannah? Let me see if I can find out. Nancy Grace reveals why she believes the ransom. Okay. So now let me put this up. Search this. Savannah Guthrie is an American broadcaster and journalist. Case suffered when authorities rushed to judgment that she had wandered off. Okay. Yeah, I'm honestly a little bit out the loop when it comes to this case.
when I'm like, that did not happen.
A lot out the loop. Let me not say a little bit, a lot out the loop. I just looked it up just now. Nancy Guthrie. Am I pronouncing that right? Savannah Guthrie's Today's Show will return. Show return will be both highly unusual. Damn. Okay, so I'm getting somewhat of it.
She would have been found quickly by scent dogs, by a neighbor, by someone. But when Savannah was talking, first of all, I was listening and I found myself crunching up, and I had to straighten back up and loosen up because I would get so upset watching her and seeing the pain on her face. And it just reminded me so much of, this is such a euphemism, that dark place. I mean, Sean, when my fiance was murdered, I didn't even want to say words. I felt like going out in the dark, in the woods, and just howling like an animal. I didn't have words to say. It was so awful. Not just losing him, but to violent crime. Stupid, senseless. For what? For nothing. I just couldn't take it in, especially the dichotomy of having grown up the way I did in a very loving home. And then that.
Definitely sorry for her loss.
Just before our wedding?
Oh my gosh. Damn.
It was just too much. And when Savannah was talking, just her face, and she started talking to her mother when she felt like it was her fault. She said, "Oh, mommy, I'm sorry. It took me right back to that moment, those horrible moments when I was lying there in the dark, feeling like howling, because there just were no words, nothing. And when she was
blaming
said,
herself.
Yes, and when she said her mom had so much back pain and she could hardly walk, I thought of my mother. I could. It would be hard, but I could pick my mother up, I think. When I try to transfer her from a chair to a walker or something, it's hard, but I can do it. I was just thinking about Miss Guthrie. Poor little Miss Guthrie could hardly walk to the mailbox. On a good day, she could walk to the mailbox, and some a-hole got her out of her bed in her little PJs, barefoot, and took her out of that house. She said, my little bitty mother, which to me means she was bent over and frail.
84.
I want them to get the death penalty. That is what I want. When they asked me about Keith's killer, do you want the death penalty? In my ignorance, I said no. But for what they have done to Miss Guthrie, there's no other choice. I'm still holding out a thin hope that somewhere, somehow, she could be alive. But by God, if she's not, the hounds of hell will chase those kidnappers until they are caught.
It was heartbreaking watching that interview.
Brutal.
It was brutal. And I'm going to get into the larger issue of this whole idiotic mindset. And I got in trouble when I did this when you were on one of my TV shows.
Wait, which idiotic mindset?
Of defund, dismantle, no bail, reimagine, open borders. This is no vetting. It's insane. So, but I want to go back to this. And I know I'm risking my head being bitten off by you, and I'm willing to risk it. Is this now considered officially a cold case?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Are you in the cold case?
Explain why not? Because
let me get my notes.
Okay. Nancy's got her notes.
I slammed that down.
I knew when I asked that question, I was dead. But
at the very end of Hoda's interview with Savannah, she asked Savannah, and I quote, about how Savannah feels about how the investigation was conducted. And Savannah says, it's still ongoing. And when she said that, I mean, that's what she said. And it means my mother could still be alive. Mm-hmm. We're still.
Yeah, I don't think any case that's not solved. Sounded crazy. Any case that's not solved should be like labeled a cold case or just like laid to rest. No, I think people should continue working on it until they get answers. So if there's no answers, then yeah, 100%. We all need to, keep solving or keep attempting to solve the case.
Investigating. What do you mean? How was it conducted? It's still ongoing.
Okay, fair enough. All these cases are ongoing. I always liked the Innocent Project because the idea that new science and technology, you can go back to old cases and pull up the DNA and actually go back and test people and find people that had gotten away with the most violent, horrible, vicious crimes. So I guess there's no such thing as a cold case, although it's a term that is frequently used. When I heard her describe this for her as agony, and the part that I didn't like and her brother, God bless him, is not wrong in his observation.
Right.
Her brother said to her,
I think Cameron is his name,
that probably it's connected to the fact that you are a public figure. Yeah, get comfortable. You are a public figure. People assume, probably rightly so, that you have money and that this was a kidnap ransom case. I've always believed it was. And that seemed to crush her in that interview. And that's not her fault. Are we supposed to stop living our lives because there's evil in this world? Because there is evil.
I made several notes when she was recounting how she asked the brother Cameron. He did not say, hey, it's your fault. That's not the way it went down. She said, do you believe that somehow somebody thought, this girl has money? And he said, probably. I think that could have happened. And so she got it out of him. It's not like he hit her in the head with it. He seems very matter of fact and down to earth. And I believe she said he was a fighter pilot. He was in military intelligence.
His observation was obvious.
And when you're trained that way, you may go into that with a different personality, like going into law school. I think differently now. Everything is about probative value. If I can't use it to prove anything, then in my world, to hell with it. It doesn't exist. He seems very black and white in that way to me. And he said, yeah, I think that's what happened. And I do too. Because Nancy Guthrie, if you look at an aerial of her neighborhood, the houses are very few and far between, and it's dark out there at night. So somebody just happens to drive by and go, yeah, that house, that one. That did not happen. They knew who they were kidnapping.
Targeted.
Yes. And we also learned that the back door was propped open, and this also struck a chord. And on air, I usually don't like to project what I think about it, or how it relates to me. But I remember when I learned Keith was dead, I just assumed, really, I didn't care why, because it didn't matter because he was dead. But I assumed he had a car wreck. And I remember I was on my way to work at the library at school when I found out. His sister, Judy, told me. And I got in my car and I didn't have anywhere to go. And I was driving home even though I knew nobody was there. And I saw our church, our little Methodist church. I saw cars there, so I went there. And our pastor, I said, Keith is dead. And he didn't believe it, and I didn't believe it. And I saw him write upside down on the other side of the desk, Bernstein Funeral Home. And then I knew. And he hung up. I said, was he in a wreck? And Billy said, he was murdered. He was shot. And I say that because I'm pointing at my notes. I say that because Savannah said that the back door had been propped open. So obviously she was kidnapped and somebody came in the back door. But in her mind, she was rational. She goes, well, did she have a medical episode? And 911 was called and they took her out in a stretcher. And so she's spinning out this whole theory that her mother is still alive and she's going to find her in the hospital. And the sister said, we've been calling the hospital. And Savannah's like, well, then I said, I'm going to call the hospital, as if I don't believe it. And she starts calling the hospital from New York. And then it starts sinking in. She's not in the hospital. She didn't have a medical emergency. Somebody took her. And her mind is trying to come up with these scenarios where everything's going to be okay. And
I hope I don't get a copyright for reacting to this, because my pauses are not that often, but it's because I'm finding out most of this information that she's speaking on in the moment. So like I'm even going and searching things like as she's mentioning it, right? And then trying to quickly get some of the information so I can have more reference. But the case that she's speaking on sounds insane. I don't think that it should be like a cold case, so they should like just never finish it and just leave it in the air. Nah, hell no. I don't think that should be the case. Like, keep looking into it until everything is solved. My bad, you can't see my face. Until everything is solved, keep looking into it. Keep trying to find this person.
Never going to tell her, but it's never going to be okay again. For the rest of her life, the way she raises her children, the way they raise their children, the way she sees the world.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's over. It's a whole new thing now.
One thing in this case, and we had conversations, I had really top sources in the FBI, and I shared this with you early on privately, and I was asked not to bring it up on air. They specifically said, it's not helpful if you go public with this. But that sheriff out there, it's called bigfooting, whatever you want to call it. The idea that the FBI, the feds will come in and local law enforcement feels like, oh, this is our territory. We don't need your help. Meanwhile, the people that are best equipped to solve cases like this would be the FBI. And when they finally did get in and they had to push their way through, and we were discussing this privately, it was frustrating to me. Why wouldn't you want all the help you can get? They're offering it to everybody for free. President Trump even tweeted out, all federal resources will be made available to help find Nancy Guthrie.
All you have to do is ask.
Ask. They didn't want to ask.
Nanos did not want to ask.
And then when the FBI finally got in, we were able to track down the videotape. That was a big moment. Huge. All right. Other videos came out. But it was frustrating because they had to keep going back to Nancy Guthrie's house. I'm not sure. Usually if you go through a crime scene, you cordon that area off. You can't have it tainted because by the time you get to trial.
You're hurting me when I think about what was done to the crime scene. Because when I would have a crime scene, nobody could come in except me and the homicide investigator.
This is when you were a prosecutor?
Yes. Nobody. And all HELL would be raised if somebody had already been on scene. It causes so many problems. It destroys evidence. Yeah. For instance, here's one that it's over. We're not going to get this because the scene was destroyed. It's electrostatic imaging, which is you use an electronic device and it pulls up through magnet. You can get footprints that you can't see out of dust. You can't see it. But once people walk through it, even with footies, over. Did it exist? Maybe not. But maybe. That's over because they ruined it.
Just in case no one, which I'm probably the odd one out because I don't be watching news like that. But if anyone else wasn't aware of the situation, let me try to give you somewhat of a summary of where we're at now. Nancy Guthrie was an 84-year-old mother of Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie. Disappeared from her Tucson, Arizona home February 1st, 2026 in a suspected kidnapping. Masked armed individuals appear to have abducted her with doorbell footage revealing a security tampering and blood evidence found at the scene. As of April, if they got that type of evidence, they should have been able to figure out who the hell it is already, right? As of April 3rd, the investigation continues without a named suspect. That don't make no sense. I thought technology with DNA was a little bit more sophisticated than that. Didn't know that? About the whole situation? Yeah, I was out the loop too. So I'm finding out more information as we listen. Like whether it's them talk about it or they'll mention something and I'll look it up. But to myself, I just thought about it like, damn, why didn't I just read out what I'm finding out to you guys. So my bad on that. But that's what's been going on, and that's the case that they're speaking on currently.
Having pizza delivery, all that on the front porch,
Remember
people
that?
going up there taking pictures
Papa
of her
John's.
mother's blood. I mean, destroyed.
And this was the problem. They had to keep coming back again and again. And it's like at some point, even if they get evidence, it's not going to be,
Compromised.
the odds of it being admissible would be what? 0. Because the crime scene's tainted.
Now, some might come in, but it would be subjected to such intense cross-examination about the way it's tainted and destroyed by law enforcement unwittingly that it would amount to nothing probatively.
I am one of the most supportive people of law enforcement that's on the air, and I don't apologize for it. I respect them. They put their lives on the line for us every freaking day, right? And look at what ICE has been able to do. Doesn't mean that every officer, law enforcement officer, is perfect, but they're arresting the worst of the worst of the worst. And I admire what they do, and they keep us safe. I always say it's a prerequisite for the pursuit of happiness to have law and order and safety and security, right? Okay, this is what frustrates me. And I don't like to be critical of officers, but I don't like how it was handled out here. I didn't like that I had FBI sources telling me that they don't want us there when they're the best people to be involved in this case. I didn't like when the sheriff showed up at a basketball game. I don't like that he's doing a reality show.
Left out the gym. He's having 90-minute gym sessions while we're trying to find Nancy Guthrie. And I agree with you. I don't like
Sounds crazy.
attacking the actual men and women that are doing the work.
Right.
The fish stinks at the head, Sean. It's Nanos. He stinks. He's got to go. But that's a distraction to finding Nancy Guthrie. That's what I'm focused on. The politics, to hell with the politics. They want to get rid of them. They don't. Fine, they're stuck with them. That's their business. I really am focused on finding Nancy Guthrie and finding information to lead to her whereabouts. And by destroying the crime scene and releasing the crime scene too early, they destroyed a lot of evidence. And that having gone through trying case after case after case, so many, I can't count them, how many felonies I tried and had to deal with evidence destroyed and had to make up for it and explain it away. You can lose a case like that. And in this case,
It sounds like they're not really doing their job the right way. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, we're probably going to get to the halfway point, guys, and then we're going to maybe cut this video up in segments.
you can lose hope of finding Nancy Guthrie. To hell with the case one day. I want to find her. So those people call.
Just remind me on the next stream too, guys. Remind me if you can. Right, I'm gonna have it saved, but reminder, so we can finish the video.
The missteps. That is certainly putting perfume on the pig, isn't it? That's a euphemism. Missteps. They're screw ups. Feds wouldn't have done that.
All right. If it feels like everybody's sick right now, guess what? I doubt you can.
Good for you for the sponsorship, but I ain't trying to watch that segment right now. Let's get to back to the case.
I don't know. Unless it's a liberal asshole that I don't like, then I enjoy it. But that's separate and apart. This isn't a political show. This brings us to how you became the Nancy Grace that everybody in this country knows today. You were talking a little bit about it earlier. You are 19 years old. You met the love of your life. You are close to getting married. You are engaged. Your life blew up. Walk us through all of it.
Well, Keith had been at our home in rural Bibb County. I often say Macon, but we were far outside of Macon city limits and nothing but pine trees and soybean fields. And he had been there that weekend and left early to get back to work. He was this close to finishing his degree in geology and already had a job lined up with an oil company, I think, in Colorado.
He was 23.
Mm-hmm.
You're 19. You guys are kids.
I was on the cusp of turning 20, and we had everything planned out to elope.
You were going to elope?
Yes. My parents would have had a fit if I got married at 20.
Wow.
And
you didn't tell them?
No. That's the elope part of it. Okay.
Well, I get that, but I mean, I'm actually shocked at this.
I've never told anybody. We were eloping.
I mean, it's romantic and it's cool. If my daughter does it, you're dead. I'm just warning you.
See, I knew that my parents would say that.
Well, I mean,
anyway.
Yeah, I can understand being mad as hell as a parent. Like, what? And then you did it in a way to where, especially I'm thinking as a father, you cheated me out of walking you down the aisle, son? Oh, nah, we beefing now. We got beef. You gonna cheat me out of walking you down the aisle? Don't talk to me no more. Disowned.
In case I mean it, but.
And he had been on a baseball scholarship at where I first went to school. I first went to Valdosta State.
Yeah.
And first generation college, that kid, my friend boy that I drove to school with every morning on the farm next to us, I said, "Are you going to go to college?" And he goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, okay, where are you going?" He said, "Valdosta State." I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'll go there too then, I guess." I filled out my application with a pencil and sent it in and got in. So when Keith transferred to UGA, there was some class he needed. He couldn't get at Valdosta, so he's going to finish at home. He was from Athens. And when he transferred there, I transferred and went to Mercer University. That's where I got my law degree. And then I got another law degree, an LLM in constitutional and criminal law at NYU. But
wow.
He left that morning. He was in Macon visiting to go back to a construction job. He was working a construction job over the summer in the middle of nowhere. So I remember waving, and I remember it's bad luck if you watch them till they're out of sight. And so I would always close my eyes just as he turned to.
Whoa. Yeah. Take your eyes to what?
Well, I grew up, we were always told, if you watch somebody till they're out of sight, you won't see them again. It's bad luck.
Wow. Oh, that's suspicious.
And so I would always go, yeah, of course. And right before he went around the window, and I closed my eyes so I wouldn't wish any bad luck on him. So I went in and went to school. I had a statistics exam that day. Okay. And I remember coming out of that statistics exam. It was dark in the building at Mercer, and I opened the doors and stepped out, and I thought, oh, thank you, God. It's so beautiful. It's so pretty and sunny and bright out here. I didn't know at that moment Keith was getting murdered. At that moment.
Damn.
And I started walking across campus, and I realized I was late for my job in the library, at the university library. So I stopped at a payphone.
I'm so sorry for her, bro, because damn, to have that taken away from you. Yeah, that's horrible.
Cell phones, and called them from the student union. And they told me to call Keith's sister, Judy, who I'm still close with today. And I knew. And I called Judy.
How did you know?
I don't know, but I knew. And I was in this dark phone booth. And I remember, have you ever seen a moth go up to a light like that? I remember my hand wouldn't work, and I couldn't make it do the numbers. And she said, "Nancy," I'm like, "Is Keith gone?" Because I couldn't say dead. And she said, "Yes." And that's what I remember. I dropped the phone. I dropped my books. I got some of them. I got in the car. I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't know that I'd not hear her right. And then everything was a horrible blur. I lost a huge chunk of memory before, during, and after that, which I've never regained. And months before and months after, I can't remember a lot. But I lost down to 89 pounds. I couldn't eat. I dropped out of school. I couldn't stand to hear a TV, a radio, anything. My mother actually stopped the clocks in her house because the ticking was just too much.
How close were you? Now, obviously, you were engaged, I assume, secretly. You didn't tell mom.
His sister knew.
I find it very romantic, except for my daughter. I'll say that again. But so you two were madly in love.
Yes.
So how soon were you planning on this going out and eloping?
At the end of the semester.
How far away was that?
Now I can't remember. Let's see. Keith had about 3 months left, something like that. And I was taking a final exam.
So you were really close.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a ring?
No.
Couldn't wear it anyway?
No.
Okay. And so
even when I married my now husband, I didn't have an engagement ring. David and I, it took me decades to consider ever remarrying, because I really thought that I would jinx.
You thought you were?
Well, I'm sure he would want you to be happy. You know, I don't think he would want you to be alone. And yeah, I could 100% understand why you would feel that way, even though you're not a jinx. That's definitely not the case. But you probably were dealing with so much, right, in that moment. Yeah, something like that could weigh on you.
Yeah. I thought I would jinx David. So I didn't want to get married.
How long did you date before you did?
Oh, gosh. Keith was killed in 79 and we got married in 2007.
I want to go back to that, but let me follow through on this. He was killed by a disgruntled former worker at a place they worked.
Right. This is what happened. There's been all sorts of contortions about it online, but Keith was working a summer job on a construction crew. And
say grief is a SOB. Facts. That's 100%. 100%. I still think about friends that I've lost growing up. So yeah, that shit is real. Right? Especially in her case. Oh my gosh.
I've never gone to the scene. I don't want to go to the scene. I've never read the trial transcript. And so such a disparity because when I try a case or when I cover a case, I have notes and notes and notes and I go to the scene and go to the scene and go. I don't want to leave any stone unturned, but I don't want to do that. It throws me into such a depression and I don't want my children to be around a sad mother, you know, because I can't get out of it if I'm in it. The shooter had worked on the construction crew. He got fired before Keith came there. So they knew of each other. I don't even know that. But that day, Keith offered to drive however many miles to go bring everyone soft drinks back because they were in a rural area. He left. When he was coming back in, he had on the owner's jacket and was in the company truck. And the guy came up and just opened fire and shot Keith 5 times in the face, the neck, the head, and the back. And killed him.
Oh my gosh.
It's a lot to absorb.
Why? I don't know why. I've never known why. They did not have an argument.
You think
they didn't know each other.
You think the jacket, maybe he thought he was killing the owner?
Well, he got close enough to know it wasn't the owner. I don't really analyze.
He just wanted vengeance, was lashing out.
Anger, getting fired, furious. I don't know, and I don't care. And I also, Sean, don't think about it a lot because it is painful. Yeah. So I haven't analyzed those facts, which is very uncharacteristic for me. But he killed Keith.
In situations like this, I've seen in a podcast recently with someone whose sister passed away when they was like a kid. They had like an accident when I think their family went on a hiking trip or something along those lines. And the interviewer was asking a lot of questions. They were like in it on some, so what happened? Do you know what kind of cliff it was? They was asking certain things. It was like, chill out, bruh. Like, this is something that is definitely still sensitive to them, which in the moment, it seemed as if she made that very clear just now. Like, yo, this is not something I think about. It's not something that I was sat here and was like, these are the questions I'm about to answer during an interview. Like, you asking a lot of details of and trying to figure out and solve things where minutes ago she just told you that she hasn't gone anywhere near the case. Normally she takes notes like crazy for all the cases she speaks about. This one is too heavy for her. I think that this interviewer, Sean Hannity, should chill out. Change the subject, bro. Right? Or like don't get so into the details that extreme, especially if she's not prepared or wants to even talk about that.
I guess.
And he was still alive when he got to the hospital. He was an athlete. He was heart still pumping, but they couldn't save him. Some small hospital, you know.
They tried. So now you just said something. You went down to 89 pounds?
Yes.
You're on the verge of being hospitalized yourself at that weight.
I don't.
You didn't. So from that moment forward, what happened? Because now you have to face a funeral. Now you have to. Now you. Did you? When did you tell your mother?
To this day, I say funeral for wedding and wedding for funeral.
Do you really?
To this day, yes. I was late to my own wedding. Isn't that right, David? I was late to my own wedding because I just could not bring myself to go down there and just try again. I was over an hour late.
For your own wedding?
For my own wedding.
Yikes.
Wow.
2 hours. He said 2 hours late. He just said 2 hours late.
Okay. I remember reading that you kept saying.
And we couldn't plan a wedding because I couldn't. I'm like, no, let's do it happy, just like it is. Just leave it. Please, let's be happy. Don't jinx it. I couldn't plan it. So we got on Tuesday. We said, okay, we're going to get married on Saturday. And that's how quickly we got married finally.
Okay. So you start out here. It's funeral time. You're 89 pounds. You would eventually get down to 89 pounds. You're asking your mother, I read regularly, did he really get killed? You would ask your mom that often? Like you didn't remember?
No, I don't think I could take it in.
In other words, you were compartmentalizing it away.
I couldn't accept that Keith was dead. I usually don't even say dead as it relates to him or my father.
How long did it take? Because at some point you obviously started to heal, but I don't know. But I don't get. Well, I was just going to say I don't get from you that you healed to the point that you waited 19 years to get married. Did you date in between that period of time?
Oh, I met David.
How long after?
Well, let's see. I dropped out of school. My sister was a professor at the Wharton School at that time. I flew up there. I stayed with her a while. I came back. I decided to go back to school. And I met David. And
how long after Keith's death?
It was in the year. By the time I went back, I was out for a while. I went back.
You're like 2021.
Yeah. And I remember we would try to go out and we'd pull up somewhere and I'd see people like laughing and having a good time. And I'm like, how can they do that? And I'd start crying. He'd just take me home. I don't know how he put up with me, really. But
I can tell you how. He loves you.
Yes.
David, you love her? There you go.
And if it weren't for him, I mean, I know what I'm doing here. I'm avoiding every time he asks me to go back to talk about when Keith was killed, I go somewhere else. I've had witnesses like that on the stand. If I hadn't finally brought myself to remarry, that's the only time I found joy when I had the twins.
This is an amazing part of the story. So how many years later was it when you and David got married?
Oh, gosh, 2007. And Keith was murdered in 1979.
So now...
But so much happened in between then. I mean, I went back to school. I was studying to be a Shakespearean literature professor. And I knew I could just never be happy in a classroom. And that had always been my dream. I decided to go back to law school to help other crime victims. And I did. And a lot of what happened in law school, I also don't remember. It's just a blur. People go, hey, do you remember? And I'm like, no, I don't remember. I studied so hard. I didn't know what anybody was talking about. Plaintiff, defendant. I had to look it up in Black's Law Dictionary and write down the definition of what's plaintiff and defendant.
Wow.
That's how little I knew. And if you look at my books, which I kept, there's watermarks on them where I would even study in the bathtub.
Oh, really?
And when I would be tired or weary, just as when I was prosecuting, I would think about Keith just looking at me with those big blue eyes. And I would know it was my duty. This was my duty now.
That's your calling.
And graduated. I was a federal law clerk. And then I was with the feds and the Antitrust and Consumer Protection Division. And finally, after much effort, I got on in inner city Atlanta as a felony prosecutor. And then after a few years, became one of, not the first, but one of the first female special prosecutors of violent felonies in inner city Atlanta, where there was certainly no lack of business.
You see the connection, obviously, that this changed the entire trajectory of your life. And out of this horrible tragedy, how many people have you been able to help? How many criminals, have you been able to put away? How many victims of crime have you probably spent hours and hours and hours counseling, talking to, praying with, and using this horrible tragedy in your own life to help others? I mean, do you not see a kind of almost like a destiny, a divine destiny blessing out of something
frankly,
horrible?
I really don't think about how it affected me, because to me that is irrelevant. What is relevant is
you don't see a connection.
Keith was murdered.
And I'm a guy that will try to see the blessings within certain things. I don't know about that one, though. I don't know if she should look at that like it was a blessing, brother.
What can I do about it? And how long can I do it? And how hard can I do it? And how well can I do it? That's just really all I see. I really don't like talking about how it affected me. He's dead. And his family, his mother, on her dying bed. Judy, his sister, said, Mom, what are you thinking about? She says, I'm just having memories of Keith. To her dying day. That's what crime did to her. So I'm just a little bitty piece of this big picture.
All right. This now brings up a broader discussion because
before they get into the next one, that's the next segment. we're gonna probably finish that the next stream. When it comes to overall, well, I do think he was kind of wilding out interview wise, brother. Like you diving a little too deep into her pain. And she said multiple times she was very uncomfortable speaking about that. But it explains why she is so passionate when it comes to the cases that she does speak about. I've watched some of her coverage that you guys have sent me. Like, y'all reminded me, like, yo, you saw her talk about the David case. Right? And she's pretty good. So this is filling in some blanks for me as far as why she's like very passionate, and it filled in some blanks also with that case that I didn't really know much about. But now I feel like I know a lot more. The Nancy, I'm probably definitely pronouncing that wrong. Guthrie? Is it Guthrie? Let me know how to pronounce it, guys, if you are aware. But now I know a lot more about that. So it's pretty crazy. It's a lot of stuff going on out there. We're definitely going to finish that in another stream. Appreciate the heck out of you guys, man.